Now we're going to split up the markup of the main app component on child components. So let's decide what we can extract into separate components in here. And the most obvious way would be to move the markup of the header into its own component, then the markup of the hero section. Then we have a few more sections on this page that can also be instructed into individual components. And finally, we also have the footer, which will be inside its own component as well. And just to make it easier for us to see which markup belongs to what, I'm going to collapse some of the elements in this component. And right away we're seeing the high-level structure of this page, and it becomes much more clear how we can divide this markup on components. So let's start with a header component. I'm going to extract markup of this header and use component with a name appHeader instead. And default location for the components inside the Nuxt project will be a folder called components in the project root. And if we're gonna store components within this folder, we will not have to import these components manually because Nuxt is going to import them for us. So I'm gonna create the first component called appHeader. Here let's create a template tag and paste the markup of the header. And after creating new components, it might be necessary to restart development server in order for changes to be properly applied. And after this, we're not seeing any errors and the page is still shown properly, so the header is displayed as before. We're also seeing that the header component also includes some other components, which is icons. We have 3 icons in here. One represents the logo and 2 others represent the button to toggle mobile navigation, open and close. Next one, after the header component, we're going to extract the markup of the hero section into its own component. So let's get back to the app.vue component and cut markup of the hero section. Create new component app hero instead inside the components folder. Here I'm going to add template tag and paste markup of the hero section. And now let's just follow the same steps to create components for the remaining sections on this page. The next section is the features section. I'm gonna call this component app features. So let's create file inside components folder for this component and paste the markup. And please note that I'm also using app prefix in component names. And that is one of the conventions because component names should include minimum 2 words to avoid any collisions with default HTML tags. Finally, let's create component for the newsletter section that is right under features section. I'm gonna call the component app newsletter. And there is one more component that we'll create in this lesson, and that is the footer component. So let's extract the markup of the footer and call the component appFooter. I will just remind that anytime we create new components, it might not work as expected and we might see weird errors on the page. So to avoid those errors, it is a good idea to restart development server. And in a browser, we're still seeing that all elements on the main page are shown as expected. But now all this markup was broken down into individual components. Let's continue breaking up markup of the main page further in the next lesson. Link to the source code of this project will be in the video description.